Get off the bus right there. Here is the bus station. I think the train station is back about a block. Right to the immediate right, not that you're going to know, is the information, and it's very useful. Good maps, informative young lady. And this is the small town, at least the part that we're seeing at this moment. We're going to go down the street over here. That's the main drag, but the two will connect, and then we'll continue on up to Silgulda Castle, the medieval one, and the new castle. Interesting little fountain that somewhat reminds me of myself, as you'll see in a moment, I think. That's pretty much starting to look like it. Catch that tower when I come back. I think it's a railroad train steam engine water tank. Probably some older buildings in this town that we want to get, and presumably this is a prettier street to walk down, she said. So we'll hopefully see some examples of small town old architecture. That's not a restaurant. We first encounter a pretty little park in the center of this small village. This is a nice building, but I'm not sure it's terribly old. I think it's one of the good restaurants in town. Decorative, I'm guessing that means applied materials. It is a very pretty open center of this town. Next to a national park, if not in it, so it has an even broader such amenity. What these are, they're kind of interesting. They look like metal, but also kind of like wood, but I think they're metal, formed for something. Church in town, lovely situated next to this pond, and to my left is an interpretive sign discussing bats and their consumption of insects. Presumably, we hook around on the loop that goes to the right up to the Sigulda new castle and the medieval one behind it. This is not the entrance, but it gives us a bit of a view. Approaching the real gate, we encounter this pretty little park-like water feature. I think it's great too in this country. It's the first time I've seen it where they go to great lengths to protect the trees wherever there's a possibility of them being damaged. I see nothing that tells me I can't enter into here, so I will. I want to get the front of that building if I can, unless this is. Nice work here in providing infrastructure. This is a nice sidewalk. Interesting how they've used the small stones intermixed within the large ones to create more interest in the aesthetics of this old building. This, I presume, is the old castle, but I'm not sure. Could very well be the new one. Don't know what the relevance of those older buildings or other buildings are. I guess from here it's pretty obvious this is the new castle, still occupied, and that's the old castle. Hopefully we can get to go in. This sculpted steep slope approaching the same thing on this side. Here's some old stone bulwarks for whatever the past held for it. And we'll enter here, and we hopefully can negotiate past the tour group. What's left here is simply the hulk of what once was. We'll traipse about. I'll give you a 360. We'll go up and down these ladders. We'll ultimately go over to that castle that you see, or that tower. I believe that's Kgorida. Excuse the high-speed zoom. course, is the gallows for tour group leaders who don't keep their groups together and stay silent, do not keep a path around their path blocking groups. This, I doubt, was even a facsimile of an earlier structure. It all would have been built out of stone, I would imagine. We'll explore this remains of this tower, and presumably we can go up through the tower. Probably a facsimile of the mechanism used to raise the drawbridge. Possible that I'm wrong, and that this actually was a legitimate part of the structure. I have not seen this kind of thing before, where you'd have a significant wall made of wood, which could have been burned, I would think. This would have been functional for raining rocks and so forth on the people below, and even for shooting things over to there, but only in the time of bows and arrows, and even then bows can carry flames. Probably another access to a stairway that goes up to the top of the original tower. For fun, we'll try out this narrow staircase, kind of small anteroom. Shortcut stairway to those who are agile enough. Walk onto this deck, but in all probability it was never here. That gives you an idea of the slope involved. It's more a quick tour because I'm here. We're going to gain relatively little information. Countries who attack you have a philosophy of not only winning but destroying any evidence of you. This is all that's left. This gives us an idea of what the castle originally might have looked like. I'm guessing that we came in through there, although I'm not sure. But you can see the various towers that would have existed. And later today we'll be over here. Hopefully we can see that's the base of a tower at a corner. I'm going to bypass going in there simply because it's a lookout point and it's filled with a tour group. I guess that this is the layout of this castle, and that large section there is the large section we see there. That tower in the corner is this tower here, but I can't be absolutely positive. And a drawing of same. And I think that little chunk of rock I saw before we came towards the castle across the ravine, that might have been for that tower. That nice view of what would have been probably the church of the old castle, like in those big arched windows. But also it was a part of a fortress, so the walls are substantial. One of being an archaeologist is the challenge of putting together the puzzles of information that you can see, that you can reconstruct with logic and with other research. For example, something was here. This is a substantial wall, and that hallway down through it, and this an archway going up into that level. Interesting stuff. It looks like it would have been some kind of main gate. Looks pretty substantial, doesn't it? Compared to some that we've seen, but then, as I've always said, a fortress is as strong as the fear that drives its creation. Referring also to my attitude towards women. We enter in through a double gate. Not a particularly large church. The area we're standing in was below the main floor of the church. Haven't a clue. This is interesting. You wonder if it was an original device used for practicing the sword and throwing an axe. It has that look about it, but it could just be a modern construct. From the back of the new castle, cute little display of park art. Not quite sure what the theme is because I can't read the labels. Don't know what they mean, but there are what look like farm implements and parts of farm implements or fishing implements. A bow and arrow, spear, there a horseshoe. So it could just be a conglomerate of things. Interesting how it's incorporated stone into it, rocks. Across the road, coming from over there where the church is, between us that you can't see, that I think is the one I'll follow along to the cable car, because I could see the candy cane park across the street.